This show is clean, pretty much.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 661. Hello, I'm Mike Matthews, broadcasting from the last place on Earth, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, California. Today, Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, the Brewmaster, plus the return of the feature into an interview where I talk to Canadian singer-songwriter and very interesting guy, Ed Roman. Plus, we'll find out about an amazing wedding that happened that I wish I went to. Mike's Daily Podcast. And yesterday's show, John Deere, the engineer, put an arc in the parking lot, because that's what you do. Mike's Daily Podcast. After Noah becomes #1 in the box office for the weekend. Yeah, well, now there's also something I wanted to tell you, that I have some various errata, frittata, pina colada. I want to drive a Maserati. Mike's Daily Podcast. That would be a mistake car. Where was I? Oh, yeah, yesterday I said Mike's that picture was Daily from Pilar Point. Podcast. It was actually Pillar Point. Yeah! I had a friend named Pilar back in college, and so that name sticks in my head for some reason. But it was Pillar Point Harbor there in Half Moon Bay that picture was from. Okay, now that we cleared all that up, I wanted to tell you because you're my close listener, you're a fan, and I adore you. That sounded sincere, didn't it? Okay. And I wanted to let you know that in this world of podcasts that have big name celebrities, or like people that were once on a reality TV show, so sort of like celebrities, it's kind of difficult for a nobody like me to come up from the bottom and have any sort of success with a podcast. Over and over again, I get the question, you do a podcast? Does that pay anything? And come on, we all know the answer to that. So I wanted to tell you that after a lot of consideration and thought, I can't do this show anymore. And I wanted to let you know, I want to thank you for listening all this time. But I have to make way for the reality TV stars that are taking over the podcasts and people that have a little bit of name recognition, which I have none. Unless I want to change my first name to Dave, that I might have some name recognition. So thank you for listening to the podcast. We're going to wrap this up, and, well, it's been fun. So thanks a lot, and happy trails to me till I meet again. Oh, and one more thing. April Fools. Okay, there you go. That was our little bit of fun. I never do anything for April Fool's Day, so I thought I would do that. No, you can't stop me that easily, reality TV stars. I'm here for the duration. Look, I do this all by myself. I've somehow figured out a way to do it all by myself. I have no problems doing it all by myself. Eric Carmen sang all by myself. And I think I'm just going to keep doing it because apparently people are listening to it. I'm getting people downloading the show, which is the whole objective of doing a podcast, right? You want people to listen to it. Otherwise, you're just shouting in a forest where trees are falling and nobody hears the trees fall in the forest. What? Is that the expression? And yeah, I think I'm having fun doing it. I think you're having fun listening to it. I bring you some interesting news, some great guests, some cool new music. I think there's everything you would want, right? Except for this person who just walked in. Hi, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing?
And it's a disgruntled fiddle player tell you what.
What?
How dare you say people don't want to see us or listen to us or whatever they do on the show.
I'm just kidding. People love hearing from you guys. You're a lot of fun. Hey, so April Fool's Day, you going to do an April Fool's joke to me?
Yeah, Mike, I'm becoming a Democrat.
What, you are?
April Fools.
Ah, ha, ha, ha.
Okay, Mike, I need to ask y'all. Why with all these sound effects after you say April Fools?
Well, it's sort of like the fireworks going off.
All right, what about the sea lions?
Sea lions are cool. Look who else just walked in.
Hello out there, Mike. I make the root beer. I'm the brewmaster.
Brewmaster, what root beer did you make today?
Mike, I made a special errata root beer.
Errata root beer. Not erotic root beer, I hope.
What's that?
That would be, I don't want to know. We'd have to ask Madonna. Her album, Erotica, had that song in it. Your love's coming down like rain. Feel it in the... No, errata is like when, a book names all the mistakes that they made after it's been published. So, yeah, that's why I was talking about the pillar point was a mistake I made. I found out later. And, of course, you can always notify me about all my errata. And, like, if I'm saying errata wrong, you can email me, MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. I read your comments on the section emails from email. And you can also email me there if you'd like to be a guest on the show or if you'd like to sponsor the show. Hey, if you're a sponsor of the show, that would help fix that problem that we were talking about earlier in the show.
Oh, that's great. How's my root beer?
It's awful. So this was interesting. Linda Perry, she's written all these big songs. She wrote... 'Cause I am beautiful, no matter what you say. That would be the Christina Aguilera song. She's written songs like, of course, she started out with 4 Non-Blondes and Hey, yeah, yeah, what's up? What's going on? And then she's written a bunch of songs for Pink and for Kelly Clarkson. Well, she got married to the actress Sarah Gilbert. Yes, of Roseanne and Big Bang Theory. And she's got that talk show that she's on. Is it The View, The Chat, The Lunch, The Chump? I don't know. And then, so they got married, and an 80s rock concert broke out, it says, according to TMZ.com. Jam-packed with rock performances. This was in Malibu on Sunday. They announced their engagement a year ago. So Sharon Osbourne, Julie Chen, Aisha Tyler, Steven Tyler, they're not related. Oh, you knew that? Juliette Lewis and Tobey Maguire were all there. But here were some of the cover group Flashback Heart Attack was there. They're an 80s cover group. And Tobey Maguire's little daughter Ruby sang Girls Just Want to Have Fun, the Cyndi Lauper tune. Annabella Lwin from Bow Wow Wow sang I Want Candy, their big one-hit wonder hit. Martha Davis, who I once spoke to on the phone. Sadly, I wasn't recording it, but this was years ago. She's from the Motels. She sang the Only the Lonely. Only the Lonely, only the Lonely. Of course, my favorite Motel songs is Take the L out of Lover and it's over. I like that because it's true. You do take that L out and it's over. Dale Bozzio from Missing Persons was there. She sang Destination Unknown and Walking in L.A. Oh, man. Terry Nunn from Berlin. In fact, I just mentioned on Facebook, and you can follow the show at facebook.com/Mike's Daily Podcast. Terry Nunn did a duet with Paul Carrick of Mike and the Mechanics and Ace and Squeeze, and they did a song called Bring Back Romance from the movie Sing. I was talking about that on Facebook and about how that movie wasn't popular, that song wasn't popular, but I love that song and I posted the video to it. It's just, and the way they're singing to each other's, Terry Nunn just throws everything into whatever she does. She's awesome. Anyway, she sang The Metro and Take My Breath Away, and then Linda Perry joined Terry Nunn on stage to sing Sex. I'm the big Berlin hit. And then Terry Nunn finished the evening with Highway to Hell by AC/DC. Linda Perry emceed the whole show, and the stage was mocked up to look like a classic rock club. Oh, the famous one, CBGB. As much as I hate TMZ, thank you so much for sharing that fabulous information. I'm not a fan of TMZ. I think that their TV show is kind of funny in that you got this old middle-aged guy. I can say that because I'm old and middle-aged. And he's surrounded by all these young, good-looking people that he's probably paying like $2 an hour. And he has them go out and get just the most superfluous, superficial information about the quote-unquote stars. And we get into more about discussing stars, Ed Roman and I. He has a fantastic philosophy on that. That's coming up on either today's interview or part 2, tomorrow's interview. But dang it, I'm a hypocrite because if I happen to be on an actual television, which I do not have a television attached, I don't have cable, is what I'm saying. I have a television, like I've said, it's attached to an old laptop where the monitor got broke by dogs that knocked it off the table with their tails. And so I hooked it up HDMI to the laptop and I watch Hulu through that, and I go directly to certain networks' websites to watch stuff. But if I'm watching just regular cable TV, if I'm flipping through, let's say I'm at a hotel or something, or at a friend's house, and TMZ is on that show, I have to stop. And I hate myself for that. Ooh, it's pouring down rain right now. So welcome to Podcaster Valley, California, where it actually rains. I didn't think that we had that function left in our skies here, but it's been pouring rain for the past 48 hours or so. So what do you think of this fantastic, interesting wedding? Are you as big a Terry Nunn nut as I am? And wasn't, and 80s music, it's interesting, when you talk about 80s music, the good stuff seemed to be done mostly by women, doesn't it? When we look back at this concert, the Dale Bazios and Terry Nunns and Martha Davises were putting out great stuff in the 80s. Tell me what you think. Email me, mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. I read your comments on the section emails from email. Also email me there if you'd like to be a guest on the show or if you'd like to sponsor the show, mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. And there's the website, mikesdailypodcast.com, that has a link to where to listen to the show in iTunes. And you can subscribe to us in iTunes. That helps out the show. It helps boost our whatever the number order is that they do, the numbering system, and gives us some more exposure. There's also links to where to listen to the show in Spreaker, on SoundCloud. We're on Stitcher, and the new Stitcher radio app, which you can download to your smartphone. It's a vast improvement on what they had before, and it works great. You can listen to all kinds of podcasts on that. There's also a link to where to listen to us on Mixcloud and YouTube. We're also on Twitter, Yelp, and like our Facebook page. When I post a new show, share that post with your friends and more people find out about Mike's Daily Podcast that way. Also at mikesdailypodcast.com, a link to the Amazon deal of the day. Click on that window, buy something, and that helps the show if you do that through mikesdailypodcast.com, as well as the blog and the daily podcast picture you can find at mikesdailypodcast.com. Mike, that was all fascinating. Now I'm going to go and find a lawyer so I can divorce the disgruntled fiddle player. What, you are? Oh my gosh. April Fools. What, no big sound effects? No, because you're leaving. Oh yeah, bye Albert. That's my sound effect.
Into an interview.
Hello.
Hello, Ed.
Hello, Mike.
It's Mike Matthews from Mike's Daily Podcast.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good, how are you, Ed Roman?
Good. I was waiting for your call.
Here, were you waiting long?
No, actually, we were just making coffee, and I thought, the phone's going to ring, so I should have something nice and warm and tasty, and somehow that, cup of coffee just sounds right.
Do you have something warm and tasty, or do you need to...
Do you have something warm and tasty?
I do, actually. I also have a cup of coffee here.
And do you like a dark roast or a light roast or
I'm a dark roast guy.
And why? Is it just the nutty, woody flavor?
Yes. The bitter nuttiness.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of notes in there. I guess I'm bitter and nutty, too, sometimes, but...
Good to be a little nutty, I think. It's healthy.
Yeah. But what kind do you have?
Well, I usually am a dark roast person, just because I'm, it's part of my coffee's part of my DNA. So, and I think a dark roast is a little less rushy, A medium roast tends to have more caffeine in it.
Ah.
So darker roast tends to actually roast out more of the caffeine, and you're left with that darker, smokier flavor.
Right. And less rushy.
Yeah, unless you got like one of those really early mornings and it's going to be a long day, medium roast. If you're going to mellow out and just sort of sip on it all day, I say dark roasted.
That is a great tip. That is a good tip. Yeah. No, I agree. A light roast, not so much. You know, but that's a quick put it down, get going. Put it in.
And then sometimes, you know, you have to do the gas station coffee, which is like, what is this? And you're not really sure if it's even a roast. It's kind of got a weird thing going on with it, you know. And then, you know, I had a wonderful experience. I was out playing out west, and we were at this festival, and it seemed to be this sort of epiphanating moment where this one person had a coffee stand where nobody had coffee. And he was brewing and grinding coffee and roasting it kind of on the spot. And what further sort of impressed me of the moment is that as I got closer, I started to realize he only had one arm.
Whoa.
And he would set up these sort of like filtration devices that he made on this board with a hinge. And then he'd pour the freshly roasted ground coffee that he just made, and then hot water from a spigot that he'd have boiling there. And then people would stand up like 5 by 5 to get one cup of coffee and kind of go on their way. But when I started drinking fresh roasted ground at that moment coffee, I was like, I'm hooked. I can't.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
I can't go back to that kind of flavor. And even now, it's like sometimes I go buy a bag of coffee and I specifically look for like, you know, the bean, just because I want to grind it at home and just have that nice fresh taste.
That's something here in the Bay Area that's gotten really big. The individually poured cups of coffee, where they, you know, have a little filter for each cup, and they pour the hot water directly over it, and people pay like an extra couple bucks for that here. It's crazy.
Well, I know that even in the price, but like, you know, it's like some of the other companies that are offering these little cup-related pressed coffees because it offers you the sense of convenience. And I mean, I kind of get it because people live a fast pace, but you know, food and just how we consume it or even enjoy it is like should be paramount in people's lives. Like the old adage is like, you are what you eat. I don't think is like, you know, an elitist statement to say something like that. It's just like we need to think more about like the quality of the food that we eat or the things that we put into us.
Right.
And it's just to be able to even savor the moment. You know, and coffee. I mean, I think 90% of the world drinks coffee.
Yeah, that's true. And we do kind of, you know, like a lot of people eat dinner watching TV, and they're not even enjoying the food that they're eating, or they're eating their food in the car.
Like even the sheer process of cooking it. Like, I mean, in my background, other than music, I mean, I came from a farming family, a third generation farming family, and I to this day, along with even my friends and family, we all kind of grow and participate in that because there's something really healthy about the tactical relationships that you have with your food. Like, you know, when I grow a garden, and not only can I supply, you know, my family with things, but I can share with my neighbors, or you know, I've even developed a barter system with a store in town for trade, so I have a credit, and it really doesn't take a whole lot of your time. It's just a matter of getting out there and doing it that makes it essential. And then there's this new love relationship between the food and the person. So even in the process of cooking the food and preparing the food, it almost becomes a communal effort. Like, you know, you have friends over for dinner and everybody sort of chips in and, you know, they're cooking or doing different things. It's something really special. And then, you know, the mountain peak is enjoyment, right, of the food with people and just of how good it actually is.
What do you grow?
Originally, my farm, because it sustained cattle, my family farm, many years ago, it was corn and hay and things like that. But most of the gardens that either my grandfather or my parents or they were between 1.5 acres and 2 acres.
Wow.
So we would grow everything from carrots to potatoes, beans, lettuce, parsley, all kinds of different fruit trees we had. We would have our own corn every year. We had plum trees. It was almost self-sustaining. And then because of the process of, food preservation, where our parents or our grandparents would get involved in the jarring and canning process of stuff, there was very little need to actually even go to a grocery store other than to maybe buy meat or, some basic elements, because everything was sort of on hand. Even now today, I store my own carrots and potatoes, and we eat them right through to almost now. And in fact, I save all my potatoes from the previous year that are getting a little softer and start to sprout, and they go in the garden again, and then continually, year after year, they keep providing sustenance.
Brilliant.
It's really an old way of thinking,
Mm-hmm. And wasn't your family, I read somewhere in your bio, the first to bring a blonde Aquitaine bull? Is that
That's correct? Aquitaine. It was
Aquitaine.
My dad, and he loved animals. And aside from the animals, pet crow, and we had 16 cats on a farm and a pet raccoon, my dad was very passionate about cattle. And he had one of those gifts where he was really good at, today we put things in jars and petri dishes and things like that to crossbreed, but my dad had a gift and an ability to really be able to see the quality of an animal and know that it was capable of doing something like that. As well as my uncle, they both had gifts for that. And it's really an old world skill, again, that's sort of been lost. And the cow came from France. It was a meat production cow. It was a leaner meat, and they could grow quicker and more efficiently. And they were a pastured grazed animal, so they weren't fed, meal from a factory or anything like that. And it was a part of our childhood, just growing up and being on the farm and doing stuff like that.
And it was the first blonde Aquitaine bull in Ontario?
That's correct. They shipped them in from France. They had a exporting kind of thing that they were working on, and there was an island off the coast of Halifax at the time where the animal had to stay in quarantine for about a year.
Whoa.
And that doesn't happen anymore because we import and export, because regulations have been changed so drastically that the animal had to stay there to make sure that there wasn't any problem with hoof and mouth disease or any of the kind of things that go hand in hand with the bovine. And then once that happened, it started to spread pretty much right across the entire country. The Cattlemen's Association embraced the whole thing, and it became a really popular cow to have. And now, even years after my dad has passed, I drive around and I see blondes, and I think, oh, that was my dad.
Blondes are more fun.
That's what they say. Blondes are beautiful.
And your father was the mayor of Markham for how long? 20 years?
And he was mayor for 30 years.
Whoa!
He was one of those kind of guys that was still the real true politician, which meant he believed he was a representative of the public, not the agenda of a corporation or a governmental procedure.
Yeah.
So after his sort of stint in municipal politics, the federal climate of what was going on in our particular area was sort of colored by some problems with the leaders of either the Conservative or the Liberal Party that we had. So they asked my dad to run as an independent, and it was actually the first time in Canada that a coalition was formed. And my dad went to Ottawa as an independent and was asked to cross the floor, but in those 4 years that he was there, because he was also dealing with a lot of health issues, he did more for the riding of York North than what's been going on in the last 30 years, let's say. And it was just because he cared about what the people wanted to have happen. When information was coming out, he kept his ear to what people were saying and how they felt about stuff. And to this day, I even still go back into the township of Markham and I meet somebody that, I sort of remember, or even people that I don't even know. And they'll come up to me and say, your dad, he helped me out with this thing, we had a dog barking in our backyard, and he showed up, and he took the dog himself and took it to the dog pound. You know, he was one of those kinds of guys that just he cared.
Oh, wow. That almost inspires me to want to become a politician.
It should inspire most, because I think there's more of a problem than people care to discuss or even look at when it comes to politics in general, because the climate is so clouded with argument as opposed to really dealing with the problem. And I think that's what people need, even on a municipal level, in their state or their province, or on a federal level. It's not really, you know, about what we understand. It's more about what's happening behind the scenes. And most of the public can't keep up with it. And that's what's important on all those levels, because systemically they connect and things begin to work. But, you know, people have agendas, and there's a lot of corporate agenda behind government politics. And that's wrong, because they're not really speaking for the people. They're speaking for the agenda of the corporation.
Right. Wow. I'm learning a lot from Ed Roman today. And wait.
We all learn from each other, man.
So, and then I have another. You have so much amazing history swirling around you. Your uncle was the founder of a company that had one of the biggest uranium mines?
Yes, that's correct. Way back in the 50s and 60s, he had... We kind of came from nothing, my family. We were in Slovakia, in Europe, at the time when it was tumultuous to be in Europe, and the threat of the Nazis were omnipresent. And most of my family, both sides of my family, were lucky enough to be able to escape and leave and come here to sort of start a new life. And I feel very fortunate that they took those steps. But my uncle was very instrumental in a great businessman and a good person to talk to. He had a grade 3 education, but he understood he was a voracious reader, and was always into talking to all kinds of people. So I think that gave him a really well-rounded perspective of life. Consequently, he knew how to make it work, so to speak. And because of that, developed a very large uranium mining company that was known as Denison Mines, and he had a very large governmental contract for a lot of the plants that were supplying uranium-based power to the province and across the country, for that matter. So it was a really important step for him, as well as just who he was as a person.
And the Pope visited his house?
Well, you know, when you, I guess, have those perspectives in society, or you're connected to things that seem to be broader than just what's in your own backyard. My uncle was a very devout person when it came to the church, and the Pope, long before he was the Pope, was a priest.
Pope John Paul II, right?
That's correct. And long before he was who he was, that we know of him today, because we're all just people, and hopefully we all grow, they were friends.
Wow.
It was a missionary school. My uncle would visit Slovakia and Poland because he really believed in religious freedoms for all religions around the world, that all of them had a right to practice, and was very adamant about that. That's even why he built the cathedral that was in Markham, that's in Markham today. And I guess the relationship that they had extended just over the period of time. And when my uncle wanted to build this cathedral that was an homage to not only the Slovak people, but just to the idea of religious freedom, that he would be able to maybe come and bless the cornerstone. So because of that, it was this monumentous occasion in the township, and the Pope came, he was there, and he blessed the cornerstone of the cathedral, and it actually at that point officially became what is known as a basilica. So if a religious figure such as the Pope does something like that, it sort of puts a very esteemed honorarium on that building.
Oh, fascinating. See, now I learned a bunch there, too. Well, now let's talk about your music. Now that you're here, your history is just so amazing. But I wanted to ask you about your song, I Told You So.
Sure.
How did that one come about?
You know what? It's funny. I was watching you know how you go through those stints? Oh, I gotta watch these 3 movies. I've been thinking about watching these 3 movies for a long time. And it's funny because it was like the movie Network.
Yeah.
And then Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
Oh.
And then at the same time, I was, reading and going back through like A Brave New World, looking at a lot of Aldous Huxley's speeches that he gave at Berkeley prior to his passing away. And I saw this sort of symmetry in the language and the stories that were so prevalent to things that are happening today, whether it's pre-manifest destiny or that wonderful ability that science fiction writers have to look into the future or even be privy to information that most of the public knows nothing about. And the idea that when we buy things or when we consume things as people, that so often I find myself talking to people now in grocery stores and having conversations with people and questioning as to where our things come from. Like, for instance, in Canada alone, if you go to the grocery store and you want to buy some fresh herbs to, do a chicken or something at home, you look at the packaging and you think, wow, it's beautiful rosemary, I'm going to buy some rosemary. And then if you read the fine print, it usually says, well, it comes from Israel. And then you think, well, my God, it's like it's coming from thousands of miles away. I'm sure in Israel they grow great rosemary, but why exactly is it that we're getting it from so far away? And then at the same time, I know farmers that are struggling because the products that they're offering can't compete with free trade agreements and unilateral agreements that deal with food and how we purchase it, sell it, use it, any of those kinds of things. So the idea is that, well, how does this agenda come about? And who makes these laws and these kinds of regulations? And then what happens so often is that those kinds of things occur, and then we sit around and wondering why and how it happened. But then you're left with that I told you so kind of feeling, which is like, well, you don't know what you have until it's gone. And it's not really to, stick it in your face and say, see, but to maybe think about it now before it gets to a point where it's, past critical mass. And even clothing or whatever it is, there's so many things that even on an economic level where we go, well, these things are suffering in our own backyard and we don't understand why, but yet I can still buy rosemary, and it's important to ask those questions. Even the things that go into the food, that whether they be preservatives or different things that we know from test perspectives are not really healthy for people. And why do they make them legal to be on consumable? I'm always questioning those things because the overall outcome is that aside from us looking at that, people are sick and people are not well and they're not healthy. And technically, if you believe in sort of the evolutionary growth of things, as a species, we should be getting stronger as opposed to getting weaker. Yet there are the same sort of mechanisms in place for certain things to say, well, this person has vested interest in this type of product, but yet the outcome of that product is not good, but yet at the same time, somebody else is benefiting from somebody else's problem. And that's not good moral business practice. And so I guess it's like, so it's wonderful, I'll have a conversation with a lady and I'll say, well, she's like, why does it come from Israel? And I'm like, well, and you have this little talk. And if you have that conversation with somebody, I think that's more important than anything. Because the more that we communicate these kinds of things and discuss them, the more intellectualized we become about it. We're educated about it. It's very easy to take advantage of an uneducated public when they know nothing of what goes on. And I think that's sort of, without having to sound overly crass about it, but it's kind of by design. And I'm not sure where we're heading with it. So for me, it's a song that's written out of necessity. And it's something I think about every day, from even when I turn my water on in the morning. Even though I'm on a well, I want to know. I don't want to. If I'm going to have something be put into my body, or I'm going to put something on my body, I want to know more about it. It's not just something that doesn't matter. It goes even back to that tactical relationship we were talking about with food and growing your own food. And many people think, well, how can you make time for that? Well, how can you not?
Right. Well, this is a great song. It's from your album, Letters from High Latitudes.
That's right.
And let's play the song right now. It's I Told You So. It's Ed Roman. He is so fascinating. We'll have more to talk about coming up. But listen to this great song, I Told You So, by Ed Roman here on Mike's Daily Podcast. Ed Roman with I Told You So. As we go outside of the last place on earth where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, California. More with Ed Roman tomorrow and the finale of our Into an Interview. And you can find out more about Ed Roman at edroman.net.
And here's today's podcast picture.
The picture is of Ed Roman so you can see what he looks like and you can go, hey, that guy is cool. MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Mike, I just want to tell y'all that I thought that Ed Roman was very interesting and full of all kinds of interesting information. That's great, isn't it, to learn things? I learned so much about Canada I didn't know. Maybe someday I'll actually get to visit Canada. I've talked to so many people from Canada. I've talked to a bunch of bands from Nova Scotia. I've talked to country bands, country artists from Canada. I need to get up there sometime. Take me with you. Sure, you and the Disgruntled Fiddle Player. No, just me and you. What, just me and you? Won't he get jealous? No, he won't get jealous. Will you, Disgruntled Fiddle Player?
I might kill you, Mike.
Yeah, let's all go as a group then. Tomorrow, the finale of my Into an Interview with Ed Roman. Plus, we will hear from Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley.
Mike, all that erotic root beer that I made sold off the shelves. Oh, boy.
Now, I thought you were calling it errata, not erotic root beer.
Yeah, whatever.
All for the almighty buck, isn't it, Brewmaster?
Yeah, I think that deer are pretty cool.
Deer?
Yeah, you said buck.
Oh, buck, yeah. That's a type of deer, isn't it? Dang, all this talk about nature and farming and stuff. I need to get back out into nature today. Basil, let's go out and, you could chase a deer. What do you mean they run too fast? You're so lazy. Do you lick your mother with that mouth?
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKES-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Only the lonely can play.